audience participation because we like that. But I want you now to listen to one of the guys who probably has, as a philosophy thinker, thought more about these issues than most any of us have. Not only thought about it, what I love is put together a presentation. It's going to take about 20 minutes, but it's worth it. Stay for that, because we're getting right back into the heat of this as soon as that's over. But Russ Belville, let's see what you have to show us and have to say about this, please.
All right, thank you. This is a presentation that's an update on a presentation I did in 2010 called The Box Canyon. And to be clear, what this is about them, not us. It's about the people, public out there that don't know a thing about marijuana. And they're the ones we've got to change the attitudes and the minds of. And so as we take a look at this, I want to start and make sure that we're clear about a few things, because I've gotten a lot of hate mail in the last 2-3 months from people that say that we believe, and we being normal, all sorts of terrible things, like we don't believe in medical marijuana. Well, of course cannabis is an amazing medicine. My wife runs a clinic. I've seen epileptics. I've seen guys with post-traumatic stress. I've seen people quadriplegic. I've seen every medical marijuana miracle there is. Of course, cannabis is an amazing medicine. Nobody's disputing that. And of course, sick and disabled people should not be arrested for using cannabis. Now, I don't think anybody should be arrested for using cannabis, but we can start with the sick and disabled. And of course, there's a difference between wanting to use cannabis and needing to use cannabis. I want to use cannabis. If I don't have any cannabis today, my day will be fine. But I know some people, if they don't get to use cannabis today, they won't be able to sleep, they'll be under grand mal seizures, they'll be having epileptic fits. They have to use cannabis. So we agree there. Some people have to have it. And of course, if you think that everyone has the right to use cannabis, like I believe, then you've got to extend that right first to the sickest and the most disabled. Right? If there's a choice, if it has to be a choice, me or the guy in the wheelchair, of course I'm going to step back, let the guy in the wheelchair ahead. Of course, and that's what we've done for years and years and years. And of course, if you're watching this on tape and you're in Tennessee or Texas or Louisiana or Florida, of course you should fight for medical marijuana. You're not even going to be able to touch legalization for quite a long time. So of course you should fight for medical marijuana. So, now that we have the disclaimers out of the way, what is the Box Canyon theory? The theory is this, basically. Could medical marijuana become detrimental to the overall cause of legalization? No. Not that medical marijuana is bad, but in how we talk about it and how we sell it and how we experience it, could that cause the public that doesn't like legalization to not like it even more? So what I'm going to show you is some framing of medical marijuana arguments, some of the ways we've sold medical marijuana that start to bite us in the ass. I'm going to take a look at the trends in medical marijuana legislation, because I have a feeling that sometimes you're in Colorado, you're paying attention to this Colorado case, that Colorado case, this Colorado bus, that Colorado bus, and you don't know what's going on in Vermont. You don't know what's going on in Georgia. You don't know what's going on in Philadelphia. I do. I talk to these people every day. We're going to take a look at how the pendulum can swing back. Keith Straub reminds me that they used to have a thing like it's going to be 1978 any day. If you look at the polls for marijuana legalization, they rose from 12% to 30% in the span of 8 years. That's remarkable in any sort of public policy to have that much rise. And then the 80s came, and that pendulum swung back, and the parents' groups held up gas mask bombs and scared the hell out of Joe Public, and the support for legalization plummeted to as low as 16% again in the 80s. So we're going to take a look at what could happen if they swing that pendulum back. We're going to take a look at how some in the medical marijuana industry, not all, some in the medical marijuana industry are fighting for the status quo. And then what are we going to do about it? How are we going to frame this so that we, as Michael pointed out, it isn't an antithesis? How do we merge the fight for medical marijuana with the fight for ultimate legalization? So I want to talk a little bit about framing. Framing is the idea about how our brains work. You remember how in elections, sometimes liberals will complain when people vote for George Bush, they'll say, they're voting against their own interests. Why do they do that? And maybe some people on the other side of the aisle think the same thing. Why do they vote against their own interests? It's because people don't vote logically. If they did, marijuana would be legal, wouldn't it? They don't vote logically. They vote on the frames. What's good? What's bad? Whereas George Lakoff frames it, all politics is moral. And politics is the art of the possible. Hey, I would love to treat it like tomatoes. Everybody can grow as much as they want, anytime they want, anywhere they want, what reason they want, sell it to anyone, sell it for any reason, anyone. I would love that. Ain't gonna happen first time out of the box. So, how did we get medical marijuana? Let's rewind, think back to the early 90s. And when we were originally fighting for medical marijuana, especially in California, how did we get it? Well, if you go back to this medical marijuana morality, again, look, Lakoff says that all politics is moral. People vote for what they think is right, or vote against what they think is wrong. And they vote their morals because that's their identity. So as Americans, think about this as some sort of scale of justice or morality. As Americans, wouldn't you agree that we cherish our civil liberties and justice? I mean, whenever there's a bill out to restrict the First Amendment, liberals scream bloody murder. When there's a bill out to restrict the Second Amendment, conservatives scream bloody murder. We love our civil liberties. Except when it comes to drugs. There is a greater moral imperative in our society to protect us from the evil dopers than there is to cherish our civil liberties. We'll give away our 4th, our 5th, our 6th, our 8th, our 9th, our 10th, our 14th Amendment rights if we think we might be a little safer. So we got to remember, they didn't pass medical marijuana. The average person out there voting for medical marijuana didn't vote for it because they thought it was a wonderful thing. They thought, well, you know what, it's worse. Oh, I'm sorry, I went ahead of myself. What happened is they thought it was worse to let sick people suffer. Yes, we do need to protect society from cannabis users, but it's worse to let sick people suffer. And the problem with that morality is it leaves us in a place where there's got to be something wrong with you to use marijuana. There's got to be something wrong with you. That's the morality we've set up with medical marijuana. Among the general public, not us, we know, we're smarter than that, but the general public looks at it that way. There's got to be something wrong with you to use medical marijuana. And how did we cement that frame? I'm a patient, not a criminal. I'm a patient, not a criminal. I'm a patient, not a criminal. At least this guy, he's a patient, not a pothead. Well, as Michael pointed out, I'm not a patient. So what am I? Again, I'm not a criminal, I'm an outlaw. But to the general public, when they hear us, the medical marijuana supporters, saying, I'm a patient, not a criminal, you activate the frame that someone who's not a patient is a criminal. We have been underlining for the past 14, 15 years that non-medical users are criminals. And we wonder why they don't want to pass legalization. Well, here's what we got to do. We got to flip this around. The I'm a patient, not a criminal view set yourself up with this very troubling frame where there are very sick and disabled people, and then there's people who are using marijuana. And where those two spots meet, we have the people who are too sick to arrest for using marijuana. That leaves us with people who are healthy enough to arrest for using marijuana. I would prefer we do it this way. Let's protect all the people who use marijuana, regardless of what reason they might choose to use it. Now let's look at the trends. So this is my prediction that medical marijuana may have been underscoring the criminality element of it. So has this come true? I mean, California passed medical in 215 in 1996, so is it true? Has it impeded the progress of medical? Dr. Todd McRae once said that we have to be clear about our semantic context. A couple people here have mentioned we've got to be clear about what we're going for here. I would like to highlight this quote from the governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie. Yeah. Boo. We do not want to become Colorado or California. I do not want this to become a cottage industry for unscrupulous doctors who will write prescriptions no matter what, and for folks who might run these facilities who care more about profit than they care about compassionate care for individual citizens who qualify for it. Ooh. But we can boo it all we like. He's the governor. For 28 months, they have had medical marijuana passed in New Jersey. For 28 months, not a single patient has a card, not a single patient has been protected. John Ray Wilson, patient, busted for 17 marijuana plants, has multiple sclerosis. He's doing 5 years in a state that has a medical marijuana law. So it doesn't matter what we think, it matters what they think. Now, let's take a look at this Bach Canyon. What has happened since I last did this in 2010? There's good news and bad news. Medical marijuana is not entirely, against legalization. I mean, obviously, we've got Colorado and Washington and maybe even my home state of Oregon voting on legalization in 2012. So didn't medical help legalization? Yeah, but patients funded opposition to Prop 19, and now they're funding opposition to I-502 in Washington. On the one hand, we do have 4 new medical marijuana states in New Jersey, Arizona, Delaware, and DC. Not one of them has a functioning program yet. All of them because their governors are trying to stop them from being California or Colorado.
Because the language is poorly written from
I'm
the
sorry,
start.
Mom, please don't bug me when I'm working.
Yeah, write good language to start with. Won't be overturned.
I'm sorry, would you like to get your own panel?
Sure. I have enough to say. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
you certainly do. Please be
do.
quiet when I'm speaking.
Yeah.
Do not be rude.
Like you were in the normal blogs to me. And then didn't post my response time.
Yeah, like, stop making this personal. Go back to work.
I never started the personal.
1.25 million patients have been
Public
protected
law.
from arrest since we passed medical marijuana. All these states here you see in dark green, medical states, the striped states are medical and decrim, the light states are light green. All these places are no longer arresting people for less than an ounce or for their medical use of marijuana. And yet, since Prop 215 passed, more people have been arrested for marijuana than before. 12 million arrests after medical marijuana. Less than that, 21 minus 12, 9 million arrests before medical marijuana. So how is it, with these millions of people now, hundreds of thousands of people protected from arrest, we've got more arrests? The only thing medical marijuana has done for the jail population of pot smokers is improve their overall level of health. Now, this has set ourselves up, this framing has set ourselves up with medical marijuana to lead to some very troubling trends. Right now, medical marijuana says there's got to be something wrong with you in order to get marijuana, right? And so there's kind of this hurdle you have to jump over. And I made this set of hurdles from the easiest to get to the toughest to get, right? From enhancement, I just want to smoke pot because it feels good, enhances me, to the levels of general pain, mental illness, chronic conditions, pain and nausea. And these things get more serious as we go up, right? Lifelong debilitations, terminal illness, and then literally on your deathbed, like some places you have to have hospice care before you get medical marijuana. This is the way the states have panned out. 96, California sets that bar pretty low. You can get it for pretty much whatever you want. Washington follows, oh, we don't want to be like California. Let's set that at a really tough level to chronic. You have to have a chronic condition. Maine, it is only a severe condition, that's okay. Hawaii, chronic conditions. Nevada, chronic conditions. Colorado, chronic conditions. Oregon adds Alzheimer's at that point. Then we get to 2004, we got Vermont, Montana. Vermont, you can't get medical marijuana for glaucoma. Rhode Island, New Mexico, a little better. 2008, Michigan sets it at the chronic level. 2010, New Jersey sets it way up here at terminal illnesses. Arizona's at chronic, DC's at terminal. 2011, Delaware, a little better. Montana repeals medical marijuana, but the governor brings it back. Does this look like a trend that's going to lower and lower hurdles?
Who wrote the
Or
language?
higher and higher hurdles?
Who wrote the language?
I have a microphone, you do not. I work in talk radio and I will out-talk you any day, so please shut up.
Let him speak.
Now, here's the other side. We've also set up this frame that says you have to be something wrong to use marijuana. You got to be a criminal if you're using it. It must be really dangerous. So we've limited how much people can get if they are a patient. From no access, you can't have any marijuana, to over 12 ounces, you can have a lot of marijuana, and levels in between of how much marijuana you're allowed to have as a patient. Also, I make home grow better than dispensary, because with home grow, I don't have to leave my house. Dispensary, I gotta go somewhere, so that's a little harder access, if you will. So once again, California sets that bar way high. Doctor can recommend anything you want, as much as you need. Washington sets a 60-day supply. What's 60 days for you? What's 60 days for me? We don't know. Oregon sets it about 3 ounces. Alaska sets it about 1.5, 2 ounces. Hawaii's about 3 ounces. Nevada, about 2. Colorado, 2. Vermont, 1 ounce, 2 ounces. Montana, 1 ounce or so. 2006, Rhode Island's going to set that up about there, 3 ounces or so. New Mexico, bring that up. New Mexico's pretty good. They give about 12 plants. Michigan, not so great. We got New Jersey, Arizona, DC, all getting less and less and less. Here comes Delaware. Oh, Oregon and Washington raised theirs to 24 ounces. Montana repealed and then came back. So once again, a pattern that looks like to me, less and less access, the more medical marijuana continues.
Oh.
Now, how could this pendulum swing back?